Well, my dad was always into sports. My family was always into sports. My mom was a Dodgers fan. I remember back in the 1950s. The first time I saw a television set with a baseball game on it, it was my mother watching the Dodgers. And so I think that the love of the game was always there. On my mom and dad's side, these are folks that came up here very early. My dad came up here in the 20s. My mother came up here in the 40s. And they met here. But they had this thing in them, this thing about maybe we were poor, but we were well pressed. Estábamos bien planchados. So it was a thing that even though we grew up in El Barrio, in Spanish Harlem in New York City, I always remember that we would listen to music from Machito to Beethoven. It was a combination in education and experience that they gave us that they really moved us forward. They helped us. They told us, be whatever you want to be and it's okay. In the sports side, it was the whole fire of the sport. My parents were always there. They were always helping us. And they would always take me to play baseball. They would always take me to sports activities. So I grew up as a sports jock. I loved baseball, I loved basketball, but I also loved American football. And growing up here, that's what you play. You play in seasons. But my parents made the opportunity available to us to be able to go and play, to be able to be there, and helped us to understand the competitiveness of what sports is about for us. Actually, it was an interesting thing. One thing that happened to me in business was when I started doing traveling from New York to Puerto Rico and to other places, I saw that even though I didn't speak Spanish very well at that time, I felt Puerto Rican. But there was a difference between me here from the States and those from Puerto Rico. So one of the things that was key was the language situation. So one of the first projects I got involved with was to create a bilingual magazine that's called Viva Magazine, that still 14 years later comes out in the New York Daily News. And I'm very proud of that because it has made it a cultural thing rather than a language thing. You can read it in English, you can read it in Spanish, and you're still Puerto Rican. It's okay. And that was a major thing. From there, what happened was that I just saw the opportunity and the historical information that was missing from baseball, for instance. I saw that we were promoting baseball, MLB baseball in the United States, but there was a huge history of Caribbean baseball that had dated back many, many years. Not many people realize that prior to Jackie Robinson playing in the United States, the only place that black and Latino and white players could play against each other was in Cuba, Puerto Rico, and the Dominican Republic. So what happened was you had the greatest ball players from Josh Gibson, you had Satchel Paige, you had the great Anglo ball players playing against the Latino players. So that only took place in the Caribbean. So that was the kind of historical information that we wanted to present. So today, we started doing the magazines, and we went from the magazines actually to online. And now we have LatinoBaseball.com. That's one of the foremost sites for Latino history in baseball. Well, I think that what you do in life is steps. I don't know if any step is bigger than the other, but I think that there's steps in your business career. I think that the bilingual issue was a very important issue. I think that the other issue was really getting to know this whole Caribbean baseball and buying the television rights for the Serie del Caribe, which we broadcast on Fox. That was a major piece because it gave us a platform to present our history from, where in normal Major League Baseball we weren't getting that exposure of our wealth, of our history. I think that the other thing was seeing the value in boxing, in seeing the fact that Latino homes, we only have about 6-7% of cable homes in the country. But when there's a good boxing pay-per-view event on in the country, on television, we buy over 40 to 50% of all pay-per-view. So that small number of homes buy that many. So I saw early that we were an important force in that sport, like we were an important force in the baseball area as well as soccer and other things. But my focus has been baseball and boxing, only because I love them so much. I've been very lucky in business in that I've been able to go in and open doors that weren't open to that point, and be able to deliver to that company a value, whether it be financial or social commitment. But I have been able to work with some great people. The leadership, for instance, at newspapers in the country, the leadership at sports organizations. I've also been disappointed to see, when you get to the top in certain instances, what the leadership up there is, that they have so little understanding of what the Latino or the Puerto Rican community is about. We give so much to sports. We give so much to the success of sports, be it hitting a home run, to be it buying a ticket to go and sit down. I think that in boxing, the Puerto Rican community is one of the great supporters of boxing, like the Mexican community is. Not only do we have great champions, but our community buys tickets, we buy pay-per-view. But yet when you go to the top in some of these sports organizations, it's a little disappointing to see the lack of influence, rather than the lack of influence that we have in the decision process of what's done in return for the Puerto Rican or Latino community.